What's up? How you doing? Here we are, beautiful night. It started off as a pretty hot day today, and then at around 5 p.m. it cooled down and became a bit tropical. Had a little breeze blowing, and it felt really good. I was up at the magazine shop, and I said to the guy, "This is perfect." And then he says to me, "Yeah, now," he goes, "but not before." And I want to say to him, "I'm talking about now. I'm talking about right now." Anyway, got some magazines here, and people my age know how big this guy was when he had his sitcom, and it wasn't his originally. He was kind of like the side character, but then he became big because he became popular. And I used to watch this show every Tuesday nights, 8 o'clock, and then Laverne and Shirley would come on. And I remember back then kickball was my thing. I loved playing kickball. And so one specific night that I'm thinking of right now, I was over at my friend's house, 2 doors over, and he had this area. It was like a concrete area. We'd play there. So we were playing kickball that night, and I remember it was like around 7:50 in the evening, and I kicked the ball, and it was almost like I was watching the ball go up in slow motion, and I'm looking at it. It's going up, 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 and I started running around the bases, and as I'm running, I'm saying, "Okay, this is it. I'm going to go home. Happy Days is on." And they missed the ball, and I made a home run. So I ran home. You know, probably back then I'm thinking I ran home in slow motion like the $6 Million Man, making the noise in my head. And I watched Happy Days. It was, a feel-good show. Had a feeling of well-being that it gave you, or you felt it. And then after that, I would watch Laverne and Shirley, which I love that theme song. That's a very inspiring theme song, Laverne and Shirley. So Lenny and Squiggy lived upstairs. So anyway, this is what I'm talking about here. The Fonz. Fonz was huge. I mean, kids today, they see him, maybe they recognize him, maybe somebody told them about the Fonz. This guy was huge. This guy was huge. We even had glasses you drink out of with the Fonz, on the front there, painted on. And my cousin had mugs for coffee and tea, things like that, with the Fonz. Had the thumb up like that. So he was big. And I used to get this magazine, Dynamite, face to face with the Fonz. Met him a couple of times. First time I met him, he was at a car show. He was there with that Joni, and he was charging $10 a picture. I think he was giving her the money. He was helping her out because she was in a bad situation back then financially. So we went up there and we watched him take pictures, but then she left. And then we started talking to him, and we took a picture with him. He gave my wife a little back rub around the neck. So we talked to him for like 5 minutes. Then after he left, popped in my head, I wanted to ask him something, and I forgot with all the excitement, meeting the Fonz. And when I was younger, we had a friend. My mother had a friend. She had a son. When I say son, he was born in the 1930s. He was up there. My mother's friend was up there. And he would always tell me that he was friends with Henry Winkler. They went to the same school, Emerson College. And he told me that they were friends back then. So when I met him back then, at the car show, I forgot to ask him, and I said to myself and to my wife, if I ever see him again, I'm gonna ask him a question. And so one day, not too long ago, we were at a restaurant, and I go in there and I see Henry Winkler. He's sitting there, doing his thing, eating, and we were sitting on the other side. And I go, Henry Winkler's here, and he was wearing a beige suit. Some people say beige. So now I'm not going to go over and bother him when he's eating, but at one point he gets up, he goes outside, and he's on his cell phone, he's talking. And I said to my wife, I'm gonna go talk to him when he gets off the phone, because I didn't want to bump into him when he's talking on the phone. He's like, oh, you know. So I go out there. He's off the phone, all right. He's walking towards the entrance to come back in, and I go out there quick because I want to get him when he's out there. And he saw me coming. He kind of like, you know, kind of jumped back a little bit. Thought maybe I was gonna push him over. So I said, I can ask you a question, and he kind of looked me up and down a little bit, and he goes, sure. So I said to him, I always want to ask you this. We've met before, but had a friend, I said to him, and he always mentioned you. He said that he went to school with you and you guys were friends. And he goes, what's the name? And I told him the name, and then he told me to repeat it, which is not a good sign. And I repeated it, and he says to me, I'm sorry, I'm sure I knew him, I just don't remember. That's the way he did it. So he did it twice, and I said, it's okay, it's not like I'm angry about that. And he went on his way inside. I went inside. I went to my table. He went to his table. Later on, I was thinking about it, and I said, you know what? They were on a fencing team together. I should have said that to him. I should have said you did fencing with him, if that's what it's called. You know, with that thin, you know, lifesaver, whatever that is, whatever the hell that is. So I forgot about that. But had I said to him, you guys did fencing together, I think that would have clicked the memory. And he would have been like, oh, say that name again. I would have said it again. He would have been, oh, I know exactly who that is. Because this person I'm talking about, he was like 6'6". He was a tall guy. You know, he probably stuck out. And in those days, like when I was younger and he would tell me that story, I used to think that fighting stick, that sword, was sharp like a razor blade. I thought one side was like really sharp, but it really isn't. Because I've grabbed it, it's just like a wire. And then you wear that mesh mask, looks like a screen for the flies. You put that on there for your eyes. Now, had I mentioned that to him, I think he would have remembered. So another time when I bump into him once in a while. Another time I bumped into Henry Winkler. I was at a really nice restaurant and really good food. And they had a whole area. It was like a countertop with ice, maybe 20 feet long and 5 feet wide, and it had all the fish that they serve. So you can go up there and pick a fish you want to eat. Say, I want that one and the one with the big eyes. So I go, I'm going to go check that out. So I go up there, and as I'm going, I look over, and there's a guy laughing his ass off. He's got his hands here, he's laughing, he's got the mouth open, like guy smiling. And I look and I go, that's Henry Winkler. Somebody told him something funny, because the Fonz doesn't normally laugh, especially like that. So I saw him there, and that's the last time I saw him. And he looks, you know, older now. When I first saw him, now that he's older, you know, he looked small, and kind of looked like John McCain a little bit. So anyway, but yeah, I was a big fan of his. Still am. Big fan. You know, he got lucky. He got lucky with that role. You know, that's once in a lifetime. Once in many lifetimes. That's not something that comes around often. Then I got another person here. People Magazine. This came out October 3rd, 1977. Tony Orlando and Don. Big fan of this guy. Candida, Knocked 3 times. I love those tunes. I mean, you could feel the emotion in those songs. You can feel what the singer is singing about. And that's what a good song is, when it makes you feel something inside. You can't describe it. You cannot. I don't know if somebody has the same feeling or says they have a feeling when they hear that song, if it's the same as my feeling. But I have this connection to those 2 songs. And I saw him live. Was it 2015 or 2016? I think it was 2015 I saw him live. And I saw him at a place where I was, you know, like 15 feet away from him. He's like, you know, he did all the songs, and some songs I never knew. Didn't know, you know, I know what they were. He sang them. And he told stories of his life, stories of the past, Chico and the Man. And I enjoyed the show. It was a great show. My kids were little, so I had them, I was kind of carrying them there, listening to him sing. But it was a great concert. Great concert, outdoors, not too far from me. Yeah. Like the Dawn girls, too. Good-looking ladies there. Good-looking ladies. And one of them was on, I think she was on Bosom Buddies. So yeah, like that Knock 3 Times song. And Candida, what a good tune, good lyrics. You can feel the emotion. I mean, even now, if I had that song, I could feel it inside. And I can't say that about every song, but his song, yes. And Tie a Yellow Ribbon Around the Old Oak Tree, another good tune. And he's got a good voice. And when he sang that night, voice was there. But yeah, he gave a good show, and I want to thank him. If I saw him right now walking by, I'd say, thanks, Tony. That was a good show. Got one more. So I'm not a big fan of fantasy movies, or that weird sci-fi stuff. But, like, I hate Star Wars. I can't tell you how much I don't like that movie. I don't have the words. I do not like Star Wars or any derivative of Star Wars. Can't stand it. It just, to me, that's not what I expect to find in space. It just seems asinine. I'm not a fan of George Lucas. So, I know there are people out there that are, okay, they're misguided, but so what? You can like what you want to like. I don't like it. I tried to sit through a Star Wars movie one time. I think it was The Empire Strikes Back. All the kids were going, and I go, I think I'm going to go too. Maybe it was something I can get into. And I sat there and I go, this movie sucks. So, but Star Trek, like, I'm not a huge fan of it, but I think it's the theme song that, gives me that weird feeling inside. William Shatner with the captain's log, and then that lady doing the high vocal yodeling thing in the theme song. But I was always a fan of Leonard Nimoy, and the character Mr. Spock. I always found that character to be awesome. The best character on that show, Mr. Spock. Very serious, logical, and I enjoyed. I didn't know anything about the whole backstory. They were always battling the Klingons, the Kryptons, or whatever. I didn't care about that stuff, but I did enjoy the whole beam me up stuff and the taser things and that little flip phone. But big fan of Leonard Nimoy. And I will say I also liked In Search Of. Remember that used to come on 7:30s on Sunday nights. And I would be home, I'd be in my room, I had my little Zenith television on. We did not have a System 3. I had just a plain one, black and white. And then In Search Of would come on. And with the lights off, it was even creepier. I remember watching one time an episode on the Bermuda Triangle. And it was creepy. Now I know the Bermuda Triangle is a hoax. So, it's different now. I mean, back then you're a kid, your mind wanders. You're like, oh, wow, Bermuda Triangle. What the hell's going on down there? Nothing's going on down there. And then he did one on Bigfoot. Bigfoot is as real as, the leprechaun. I mean, you got to think of it logically. Nobody's ever shot one. All these hunters throughout history, nobody shot one. Bring it back in town, sell it to the circus, put it on exhibit somewhere. Nobody. And it's a big thing. It's not like it's the size of an amoeba, where it's like we can't find it. This is a big, 8 feet tall, like 600 pounds, and it's able to hide. I mean, imagine Nell Carter running around in a forest and nobody can find her. I mean, Bigfoot is big. somebody would have shot him, like maybe a Sioux Indian or an Apache bow and arrow or a Cherokee, Comanche. They would have shot these, brought them back, and they would have been like, look what we got. This is Sasquatch. All fake. Then you got a guy putting on a suit on and then telling his buddy, why don't you film me running around and we'll sell it to the media. First of all, the way that guy was walking in that suit, that's not the way a primate like a gorilla would walk. I know we're primates. I understand that, but we're not gorillas. He's walking like a human like this. All fake. But anyway, the show, I bought the entire series, In Search Of, the whole thing. And I remember Saturday mornings when the cartoons would come on, they had Star Trek, the cartoon, and these guys, the cast, would do the voices. I love that cartoon. Like that, for some reason, I make a distinction. I saw it a bit different, I mean, the television series. I could sit there and watch that, and I'll tell you, in my house, because it was on Channel 56, it was, fuzzy. Had all that white noise static thing going on, and I had to always adjust, and the ears, the rabbit ears. But my friend who lived 2 doors up, his father had like all the top things, top TV, top radio, top telephone. He had the antenna on top of the roof, the one with the extension things that look like coat hangers. And my house, it looked horrible. But I was at his house one time, we were playing, and nobody was home. They left us to play in the backyard. We were little. And then he went inside, he called me in, he goes, I'll come watch some television. And we didn't really hang around in each other's homes. We played outside. So I said, all right, I'll come in. So we went inside, went to the living room, and they had a big television set. For those days, it was huge. And so we sat on the rug, and we were watching. He turned on, and Star Trek was on, and I looked at it, and it was clear. It was like watching a local channel, like you were right next to the station. And I was looking at it, I go, wow, that looks amazing. And the theme song came on. It was crystal clear, no crackling. And I watched the entire 30 minutes. I just stayed over there and watched it. Then I went home, and I told my father, can we get an antenna? He goes, yeah. He goes, we'll get one. We're going to get one next year. We never got one. We ended up getting cable before we got an antenna. But yeah, so I was just, a fan of his, and I enjoyed him on Columbo. He was on an episode of Shatner was too, but he was on an episode of Columbo. He was a doctor, I think he was a cardiologist, and the grandfather from the Waltons, Will Gear, was on, and he was like his patient, and he did open heart surgery, but he wanted to kill him, so he put dissolvable sutures, and then Columbo figured it out before it was too late. And then he took the sutures, the dissolvable ones or something, and Columbo came towards him. He grabbed him, and I guess he was able to put those sutures to get rid of the evidence in Columbo's jacket pocket or something like that, or Columbo's pocket. But Columbo figured it out, like always. But one thing I don't understand is how he would have gotten away with it. He was a surgeon. They wouldn't have done an autopsy to find out what happened. They would have been like, it must have been a heart attack. Who cares, right? They would have done an autopsy. They would have opened him up, and they would have seen that the sutures had dissolved. And they would have been like, okay, who did the surgery? And they would have been like, this guy. And they would have arrested him. So that episode to me was, I don't know, unnecessary for Columbo to be in. But he, and that's one episode. I don't know if there's others where there was nobody who died. Will Gear, they redid the operation, and he lived. I was a fan of Grandpa. He looked like a fun grandfather to have around. I know that story with what's his name there, John Boy. Said that they were on Warner Brothers lot there, and the tour bus was going by, and they were in some pond area, skinny dipping or something, or I don't know, they were there with their bathing suits on, and as the tour bus went by, they mooned it. You would never think Grandpa Walton would have done that, but, well, maybe he would have. Maybe it was Esther who was the strict one. So, yeah. That's it. Look at this cool picture. That's like he's in a Perry Ellis dress shirt advertisement. Leonard NImoy. I feel like going inside and watching In Search Of. And it was just the way he narrated it. Gave it a creepy quality. You know? Plus, when I was a kid, everything was like mysterious to me because I was new to the world. Logically brilliant, Mr. Spock. And the good-looking lady on there, Uhura. Uhura had, well, she was in charge of the mapping. I don't know. She did something there by the desk. Yeah, I enjoyed stuff, you know, and I actually saw William Shatner live. I was at my favorite record store, and he was there also promoting his new album, you know, where he talks and people play music behind him. I didn't know he was there. I was shopping for my, you know, records, and then I went to the back, and there he was. He was sitting in a chair. They were talking to him. He was answering questions, and I passed by him and I looked at him, and I said, you know, he was almost 90 back then. And I looked at him and I said, wow, he does not look even close to 90. He doesn't sound like he's 90. He doesn't move like he's 90. Like he would walk like a, you know, like, you know, I don't know, 57-year-old man. And sharp mind. And I go, it's incredible. It's incredible. I mean, he's 90. Now he's 90 and you look at him and, you know, he looks solid. T.J. Hooker. T.J. Hooker. So anyway, that's it. That's it. Knocked 3 times. Candida. Big fan of his. Tony Orlando. And, you know, I liked his buddy too. Chico and the Man. Alright, that's it. I'm gonna go inside. Ciao.